Peace, everyone. How you doing? Welcome to the podcast. Today's title is Brother Reggie and Israel Doctrine. Finally speak. The truth comes out. Because we two brothers, iron sharpen iron. There's some things that I'm unaware of, and I believe there's some things that he unaware of. So we're gonna start the conversation. How you doing today, Brother Reggie?
Israel Doctrine, Carl Albert Israel Doctrine. How are you doing? It's been a long time since we've done anything online. It's probably 8, 10 years or something like that. And
Yeah. I called you this morning because of the
you
debate.
tight because you tight. You're saying that people don't know what they're talking about, and and
Yeah, it
your
kind of
Israel Doctrine, huh?
that debate kind of startled me. I said, even though I don't like the apostle, I had to respect his position more than Morpheus. But nobody debates Israel doctrine, so we're talking.
hmm Well, like I was telling you before, for many years I have only done ancient Egypt, Africa, Nubia, and I haven't done anything too much publicly until maybe the last 6 months. Um, the Bible people continue to attack Africa, ancient Egyptian, and classical African civilizations with Christianity. So um, I'm like, okay, okay. So this book that you are presenting, um, I'm gonna finally uh, give you the business. And I don't really debate Israel doctrine because you're my friend, and we don't have curse out arguments and stuff like that. But my position is that the Bible um, is man-made, and I study history. And even when I study ancient Egyptian culture, as it's called, Tawi civilization, I only do history. I'm not a Kemetic priest. I'm not. Um, I don't do spirituality. I don't do any of that. I I what I do is I talk about history. And so if I'm going to talk about anything biblical, I'm going to talk about it based on history,
Okay,
right? Okay.
respect that.
For now, I know for now. For now. So, uh, so when I look at the Bible, I look at comparative history of the world at its time period, and I don't read history through the Bible as many people do. Many people read history through the Bible. I use history, and then I look at the Bible.
Well, let's talk about it. Go ahead. Let's bring up a historical point
Okay.
and let's go from that
All
direction.
right. So, when it has something to do with ancient Egypt, right? For example, the Bible in ancient Egypt, the Old Testament. Start at the Old Testament. We get to your buddy Jesus later, your Savior later. Well, when we talk about ancient Egypt, we have the Exodus. And with the Exodus, we have so many problems with the Exodus. The biggest problem we have with the Exodus is that these are the people of Israel, or who will, these are the people of Israel, and they are enslaved in this land called Egypt. And Moses, he liberates, right? He finds out that his through his mother's people that he's a child of the God of Israel,
Hebrews,
right? Uh,
Hebrews at that point, it eventually becomes Israel.
right. Now there's the problem right there. They're not Hebrews. Hebrews is the Greek word. So that's the
Correct.
first problem.
It's a
So
gentilic word.
right. So So now that's the first problem that Bible people have. So then the second problem is who is the God of Moses?
I
No,
said, it says the God of Hebrews before he changes into the God of Israel, seeing that he made himself.
it can't be Hebrews because at this time there is no word of Hebrew, so it can't be that. So the Bible says that the Bible said ultimately he's a descendant of Abraham, right?
And
Uh,
eventually Abraham get called Hebrew by some slave that broke free and told him about Lot. That's the biblical aspect of it.
right, but it can't be that as a Hebrew because that word doesn't exist at that time. So so we have that problem. So nevertheless, his people are supposed to um, sojourn in uh, um, prior to him sojourn into Egypt and become enslaved. Historically, for me, that's another problem because Joseph, uh, who marries Potipharah, right, who becomes the vizier of the pharaoh, right? Um,
This is not historically true.
no, can't be. Uh,
There
one-
there wasn't nobody down in Egypt that brought the seven plenty and seven famish and none of that stuff. It was never no time of famish and
yeah, there were
any.
times of there were historical times of famish and climatic phenomena and the Nile becomes red. Um, those things are true. Earthquakes, right? Plagues, right? All those things are true. But the question is did the Bible writers write it in, uh, or for the Bible, for the sake of the Bible, or uh, because these things actually kind of happened during different time periods? But is it all connected to the story of Moses? So, um, so there's a problem there. The biggest problem that we have is who is the God of Moses?
Who is the God of Moses?
Yeah.
Once again, the God that stated that he's the God of the Hebrews when Moses spoke. He spoke and said he spoke to the God of Hebrews, said, let my people go,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
all things.
Right. So, um,
I am that I am.
yes, I am that I am,
Yeah.
and then Moses speaks to God as if it's a person. They basically kind of like talk. Moses sees God versus the burning bush when God is not as familiar. The God of the Bible is not familiar as much with Moses, but during different time periods, uh, they God revealed Himself.
Yeah.
Um,
There was an
so
angel in that bush, by the way.
you said what?
There was an angel in that bush when Moses was speaking to the burning bush,
Right. But at another time, it seems that God and Moses speak uh,
face to face. It
face
was,
to face.
yeah.
So, the great universal God, right? He's the one who created the heavens and the earths, the heaven and the earth. The earth when it was without form, right? And then and created the heavens, and then uh, uh, you know, so and then brought the stars into the heavens because the heavens didn't have anything yet. The light that they talk about when God created light, that light was not the sun. That light seemed to be just the light of God in biblical.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going with that, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm just talking about this God. So the reason why I'm saying is because this God shrinks himself all the way down, right? From the this God that creates the expanses, shrinks himself all the way down. And he talks to Moses, and ultimately his name is Yahweh. God's name is Yahweh, right? At this time period, and another time period, earlier period, his name was El. You see words like El Shaddai, Elohim, right?
I don't get into personal names, but I agree.
But it's in the Bible,
I hear you. I just say I don't get into personal names.
right? So, but they're not. These are titles. These are not personal names.
Titles, names, or whatever.
Okay, so
Because I had a physical father and I used to call him Albert because that was his name.
uh
And once
huh,
he got sick and he was dying,
uh
I got
huh.
real convicted and I started calling him father. So
Okay,
that's how I deal with my father.
oh, okay. Well, now I know that your father's name was Albert, and that's how you become, and you deal with a personal name because that's your personal name.
Yeah.
So, so this God shrinks himself down and he reveals himself as Yahweh. Okay. And I don't have a problem with necessarily that title right now, but we will have a problem as we go on with this conversation. So, so Moses now he gets this message that he has to uh, liberate his people from Egypt. The historical part of this is problematic, is because in history we don't have a firm date of the Exodus. It's apparent that the pharaoh can't be Ramesses. The pharaoh could be a number of different pharaohs. Amenhotep the first, or in some regards, it could be the one of the Hyksos kings, pharaohs. It could be a number of pharaohs. We don't know, and so because of that, we don't know the date. We don't know exact date. There are different approximations. So
I,
the date of the Exodus for you is when? When
I'm
these?
trying to chronology. I can't think. Remember, I'm a stroke victim, so my thoughts they kind of run off
Well,
every.
you're my friend, so
Yeah,
in that.
I'm in the show because I call myself calling you and Jonathan and all y'all at the time out on the chronology of the Exodus and stuff. Now it's
Yeah,
kind of similar to David Icke, but a little different.
okay.
Not David Icke, but what's the Egyptian dude um, that does the new chronology and all that stuff?
He's Egyptian.
No, no, this dude Divine Prospect dealt with too.
Oh,
The European guy. I
yeah,
think he did a show called The Exodus or whatever.
yeah. So there's different chronologies about when this could happen. So the issue is we don't have a firm date. That's the best thing that I can actually say, that we don't have a firm date. And so we have a story of belief, and I can respect people's faith and belief, except for when they um, want to have discussions as if it's true. You can have your faith, but don't make it true. It's true to you, but it may not be true to me. So I require a little bit more Israel doctrine. I require some semblance of some facts. So I don't have a firm date of the Exodus, and then now I'm not uh, from the story. I know his name is Yahweh at this particular point, but if his name is Yahweh, then the problem for me that arises is that both El and Yahweh in history in Egypt is not present as a worship body in Egypt. Then no one knows about El and Yahweh in Egypt. The Egyptians know about El from crossing over to the Levant, and they know about Yahweh from a group of people of the Shashu of Yahweh. And those people seem to be people across the Red Sea in what you call Midian. Those, and they come into Egypt, and then they raid, uh, uh, and so they get noticed by the Egyptians and the Nubians, and the Egyptians write in a temple about these groups of people.
Yeah, so where's this history coming from? Is it coming from this group of people or people speaking about this group of people?
Um, well, these are scholars and writers that write about archaeological, biblical archaeology.
And a lot of them don't care for this stuff though. They
No,
care
they do.
to make the conversation. We can talk about it, but
No, they do. They do care. Many of them are Christian and Jewish scholars, right? And
Roman
they're looking
Christians
for,
and
huh?
Judean scholars, they not Christian Christians, and they're pious people.
No, there's some of them. For
They're
example, the person that we were
religion,
talking about, the well, the Israeli scholar that we're talking about, right? They are members of the religion. You may not respect them, but
right?
they
Any
have.
religion has a doctrinal backing, meaning that when they go to worship or they go into these temples and stuff, their doctrines say different than their actions. When they're in public, they gotta look good. Let's just say the American president. He always say, "I'm a good Christian," this and that, but he's in fraternal orders and behind the curtains he into stuff that you don't even know what he into because he got a bias that you don't know about. He got to look
Mhm.
good in the public. So
No, I don't. I don't disagree with that. What I uh, but there's archaeology, and so the question is finding any material of the Exodus for the uh, close to 1 million people that left from uh, the Delta region, right, with Moses and crossing into uh, the crossing into what they will be in the wilderness, and then launching later Joshua launching the campaigns against um, the Canaanites, right? Because God promised them that land.
yeah,
So,
well,
mhm,
like I said, me myself, I done dealt with the chronology. I would like to sit down and deal with the chronology with anybody that would want to deal with the chronology, and we can come up with the exact pharaoh, so and so, everything. It's just that I can't pull it off the brain because I did it years ago. But I
that's
can send you the show I did.
yeah. Um, no, you're capable, and you've done a lot of work over the years. It's just that when I don't debate anymore. The only person I will I, uh, I will deal with ultimately is uh, Jabari and his belief that the netters were um, real, but they weren't literal, right? I just don't accept. I don't accept that scholarly. But getting back to El and Yahweh, records show that there is no El or Yahweh worship within Egypt. It does show that there are people that believe in El in the Levant, and there are people who believe in Yahweh in um, Transjordan, right? Uh, which you can almost say is kind of Saudi Arabia, Transjordan.
Yeah. So
And,
what's the problem with all this though? You're looking from a historical point, and that's why
Mhm.
I asked you which historical point are you looking from? The point of the people or the people talking about the people? Because if you hate me, like a lot of people on YouTube just hate me because I done cursed them all out and showed my butt to them and
Mhm.
everything. They speak bad of me and they do me bad. They every time they speak on me or do something about me, it's foul. It's nothing good.
But I don't do that. So you, my friend.
Yeah, you don't do that. But see, it's the problem of the people that we're talking about. They're
Mhm.
some of the most hated people in the world. From the
Mhm.
true Israelites to the ones that go come in a name and get beat up just like they would get beat up if they were standing there.
Mhm.
So I mean,
Well, get so I was talking about some of my problems. I have many problems with the Bible, but this story of the Exodus um, is problematic because I can't find in history the a people called Israelites in Egypt. I can find um,
they weren't
people.
Israelites in Egypt. The Egyptians called them Hebrew. When they was in Egypt, they was Hebrew. They was that.
The Egyptians did not call them Hebrews because the word hadn't been created yet. At this time, the Greeks didn't get there, and so Hebrew is a Greek word. Now, if you want to say that it comes from Eber and all of that, um,
That's an ignorant Hebrew Israelite understanding.
okay. So whatever these people are, their God is, if they're living in Egypt, is not El or Yahweh. The only thing that we do have is from we have Baal worship in Egypt. We have Anath worship, who's
Had
kind of
all
like a
kind of gods in Egypt because they accepted all kind of gods in Egypt, right?
no, no, they did not. The gods, the deities that I'm talking about, they accepted uh, Anath and Baal. Um, so we see in the Proto-Sinaitic script, the Proto-Hebrew, we see a sphinx with the name um, Hathor and Balet. So we see the kind of Canaanite version of Baal, which is Balet, and then lower down we see the Shashu of Yahweh, and so we see those people coming into Egypt, but we find that they are not settling, they're just raiders. Now, getting back to the Moses story, Moses goes to where? He deals with the Midianite people, correct?
Yes.
Great. Where's Midia?
I ain't in the land maps and locations, but
Right.
Middle.
That's in Transjordan. And so ultimately, he destroys the Midianite people because they didn't help them. They didn't help the Israelites uh, during the Exodus. So ultimately, uh, but earlier, Moses had a good relationship with these people because it was the Midianite chief that sent him to meet God on the mountain. And so Moses goes to the mountain and meets God, and meets Yahweh, and that's in that region of the Midianites. And Moses goes there. He meets God. God gives him some instructions. He returns to Egypt, and in the biblical story, he uh, ushers them out safely into that area.
Well, this is the Manefa Stilla,
Hmm.
and it stated that the term Israel can be found in it. I dealt with the Amen Ra squad with this.
Hmm.
Give me your stake on that, your claims on that.
Yeah, sure. That word, uh, that's there is not Israel, it's Israel. And there are some other words. If I had to pull it up, I could. If you want me, I can pull it up. But it's Israel, and it seems to be a people group, but it's not necessarily Israel at this time. Uh, there's you can see Ascalon, you can see Gezer, right? You can see areas in Canaan, and these are Canaanite areas that the Egyptians are talking about. So, Maren Patah's uh, rendition of Israel is a people group, but according to the Egyptians, they wiped them out, right? They're wiped out. So I'm not asking you to believe the ancient Egyptian uh, propaganda. Not asking you to do that, but that is the material there. Okay, and that is in another one period. Then in a later period, we have more interesting the Moab Stela. Now the Moab Stela is in Transjordan, and the Moab Stela actually talks about Omri and Israel, and that's in the around 820, 30, 40, 50 BC, BCE. And so we
Guy that wrote the pretty much the Exodus or what happened during that time. It's not a still is it. It's more like a poetry.
no, it's accepted in archaeology as something very real, and even scholars who are Israelite or let's say Jewish, um, they accept it as a primary of the people in that area. And what it does is that it mentions Omri, right? I think it mentions uh, I think it mentions David. It mentions the wars between the Moab people and the Israelites, and it is extra biblical. And so, um, one thing it does do is it talks about a group of people who are named Israel, and they are fighting the Moabites, and both groups are trying to kill each other. In the Moab, this person who is writing it, he is his god is Chemosh.
So
And
there is a people somewhere named Israel in history.
yeah, in the Moab Stela. And so that correlates with the Bible, but it puts the Moses story around 840 BCE, around 840, around 840, 850. It
I
puts,
understand chronology is messed up, so I mean,
but this thing actually puts them in a time period, and it also correlates with the fact that uh, people of Israel, people of Israel, are fighting uh, the Moab people.
yeah,
And
it's gonna move up in the chronology to like Hezekiah and different, you know, Israelite kings, David and stuff. You don't think David is a historical person either?
well, interesting. Interesting. Those two periods are very close, within 60 years. So during the Hezekiah period, you have the Nubian. Uh, at this time, the Nubians, uh, Pianki, Shabaka, Taharka, Shabiktu, they have taken, but particularly Taharka. Taharka is fighting the Assyrians and actually trying to protect Israel. Israel is a vassal, so that's there. That Israel. Then you have the Moab Stela, where Israel on the other side is fighting the Moab people. Um, So, um, I mean, we could spec it out, but the issue is for me is the people that we're calling Israelites, right? Uh Moses's people. Who's Moses's God? And um and one thing is certain, it can't be El or Yahweh, not Moses, right? So there we have that. And then we have Egyptian narratives. And I'll share my screen. I'll
Go
share
ahead.
my screen. Uh, share screen. See.
Let me
All
go
right.
on
So
the
then we have the Egyptian narratives, right? So from Jonathan Owens, who you are familiar with, right? Who you have debated in the Amara squad. And uh, one of the things that some of his work is, he introduces this figure called Kamwaset. And Kamwaset is a prince, and they mythologize Kamwaset. And Kamwaset, he he has a series of tales, and one of those tales is very similar to the Moses story, right? So where is it in this piece right here? In their story, and I won't spend too much time on Egyptian stuff because you're not interested in it. But in the Moses story, the Egyptian Kamwaset, who has a in his tales is called Setni, he fights a Nubian sorcerer. And the thing about it is, he fights the Nubian sorcerer in they're fighting for powers, and the Egyptian actually, the so-called Egyptian actually beats the Nubian. And the Nubian, they have this magical battle with earth, with water, with animals, and all of that. And that's written in the text, but that doesn't deal with the the Bible writers. Then there's another story that's really interesting. I'll go down. There's another story. Um, I can deal with. Let's do this story right here. I'll come back to ISIS. I'll come back to that.
So no King Solomon, none of these people. I know people always saying we can't find their graves, but we can't find none of these actions in history.
We what we can find is, again, um, some type of House of David, right? But we can't find per se Solomon, right? Um, but we can find David. But there's not the Israelites of that time, if you want to call them that. They're not writing. They're not writing. Where's Ursu? See if I can find Ursu.
They're not writing. So once again, if you're looking from a historical point and they ain't got no writings, the writers that's writing about them has already won because they can control their story.
Well, no, they are writing, but they're not writing biblical stuff. So, for example, uh, we have Proto-Sinaitic, and then we have Proto-Hebrew, and then we have the cylinder seals, right? And so we have a lot of, not a lot of writing, but we do have writing, but they're not talking of the biblical. They seem to be Canaanite groups of people, not really Israelites
Well,
in
Israel
history,
live in Canaan. You can
huh?
easily, if they living in Canaan, the land of Canaan, you can easily mistake a Canaanite for an Israelite or Israelite for a Canaanite because you don't know.
Well, the difference would be what God that they are practicing. So there's Canaanites, and then there is this group of people who emerge in Canaan or come to Canaan, and they could be this group that you're talking about, this Israelite group. But when we go and look for the writing around that, this is the time that you see Asher, you see Yahweh in his Asherah, right? And in this case, in this time, Yahweh has a wife, uh, a mistress, a wife, Asherah. And in the Bible, Asherah goes away, right? But in the early time period of the Canaanite time period, Asherah and Israel, I mean, sorry, Asherah and Yahweh are, are linked together. In the Bible, Yahweh's wife goes away. So what I'm telling, oh, and there's this guy named Urshel. Now, Urshel is an interesting period. This is in 1203 to 1197. There is a civil war that breaks out, and there is a Canaanite who seizes control or starts a rebellion in the 19th dynasty, and his and he basically starts a whole lot of trouble, and then he basically leaves leaves the area with Egyptian gold, right, and other treasures. And um, in this particular story, they speculate that Urshel might be the inspiration of the biblical Moses, um, uh, because he's a foreign leader, and there's disorder, and then there's a dramatic expulsion of Urshel from Egypt,
Now,
right?
I haven't dealt with or studied none of this, and I'm currently on a business venture of creating a
Mm.
course, trying to get people to get back to the law.
Yes. Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen for now.
The modern Christians say that we're not under the law, and they believe faith without works get you salvation. And
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
that's Paul. That's Paul.
the thing is, God gave us things to do. Ecclesiastes 12 and 13 said a whole duty of man is to fear God and keep his commandments. So if somebody give you commandments, you have a job to do. Clean this up.
Perpetually, forever,
Right. And
ever.
so
Hmm?
this is a big problem, I believe, in the Christian world. So I'm finna tackle this problem starting on the 15th.
Okay. So,
And I'm a digital content creator now, so I'm creating books and stuff. But this topic that we on today, after
yeah.
I did that, I'm gonna move to this.
Okay. So there are parallel stories, or you could say there's different things that I brought up. I brought up the proto-Sinaitic ballad in Hathor, or Hathor, right? Hathor, which becomes Hathor. I brought up Urshu, which is an actual historical story of a civil war breaking out, where Urshu now uh, leaves with treasures, is expelled from Egypt. I brought up what's this guy? I brought up Setni, who was the fictitious Kamwaset who fights in the chambers of the Pharaoh's chambers with a Nubian sorcerer, and prevails for Egypt as a story that parallels to the biblical story. My problem again, though, is Moses is supposed to be worshiping Yahweh, um, but the problem is Yahweh and El are not worshiping Egypt. So we have this. If I acquiesce to the premise, Moses goes to Midian, and so when he goes to Midian, he they ultimately destroy. Joshua kind of like takes over after in the wilderness, and they they lost this campaign on both sides of this river, the Akaba River, and they launched this campaign. And when they launch this campaign, they fight until they get to the north. It starts in the south, and they fight till they get to the north, and they seem to be able to cross over into the Levant. And then there's a fusion between El and Yahweh, right? So in history, uh, in history, we do have a people, those people fighting in that region. We don't have a Moses, but we do have a people fighting in that region, and then we do have a fusion of El and Yahweh, but that's history, that's not Bible. So then the Bible writers now have their own spin on it, and they insert figures that you can't find in history, but you do have some activity. So we do know the Yahwist groups of people. Uh, and so it's interesting. From an earlier tradition, a Eucharistic tradition, Yahweh, Yahweh um, is one of the seven sons of El, and there's Baal, and are a number of uh, these names are earlier than the Bible. So, so I just want to say, Israel. So I know that you watched the Morpheus debate with Apostle, and you feel that both people didn't know what they was talking about. But I kind of disagree. I think that Morpheus absolutely was showing when we get to the Jesus part that 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 there is big disagreements between the Hebrew what the Hebrew expectations for Messiah is versus the what Apostle was saying.
Well, like
So
I said to Isaiah 56, that he was supposed to be slain. Morpheus never came from that perspective because he was slain. If you go to Daniel 9 and 27, it say he's going to be cut off in the midst of the weeks to stop the sacrifices and oblations and stuff. This is Old Testament stuff that deals with the Messiah that he never dealt with.
yes, he did deal with it because he was what he was dealing with is the fact of the matter is what it actually said in the Bible, right? And the expectations of the Messiah, right? So if I let me
Bruised
just
for
quote the
our
King
iniquities.
James.
So was he bruised for our iniquities? Yes or no?
Was he what?
Was he bruised? Did they beat him, kick his anus and stuff for our iniquity?
Who did what? I'm a little
Jesus
confused.
died for our iniquity. They beat him and killed him as
Um,
if we
yeah,
were slaves that broke in their house and did. They hung
yeah.
him on a tree. They did
Uh,
all these things. They lynched him.
you're talking about Jesus?
Yes. The
Okay,
Messiah, the
okay.
Messiah, Christ, whoever, whatever.
Well, let me look at Isaiah 56 real quick. You know, Israel, I don't believe in this stuff, but I'm going to look at it, right? Okay, so let's see, share screen, entire screen here. Okay, so it seems that uh, a lot of this stuff is stuff that you accept, right? Says the Lord, keep ye judgment and do justice, for my salvation is near to come, and my righteousness to be revealed. So, um, and then he gives the blessings is the man that does this and he does that. Now, which Isaiah part that you want to look at? What,
Mm,
what do you what do you want? Isaiah 56, what verse?
I haven't been here for a while, so
Okay, so um, I think it's the
I don't
part.
have these conversations because I can't find anybody that willing to have a conversation. We can go to five though. and it
Wait,
said he
like,
was cut off, or who
you
were offered exceeding for our assembly under the old law and stuff. So let me get to it so I can read it.
yeah. Because I think it's the section with that they were arguing with Emmanuel, right? Uh, um, 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 the Emmanuel, and I
Can
think
you
that
read 56:5?
56:5.
Even unto them will I give in my house and within my walls a place, a name better than of sons and daughters, and I
Oh,
will
56:5. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was somewhere else. I am messed up. So let's go to 56:5. Okay, so I was way off. Okay, so press enter. Supposed to give it to so let's see. So
and I
56.
might have the verse wrong because, like I said, I'm
Okay,
all
I'm here.
what he
Okay.
used to be. But the suffering servant is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So let me
Uh,
say this: suffering servant verse.
well, you have to lead me there. Let
I'm
me
gonna
see.
get to it now.
Because
Suffering servant verse. Isaiah 52.
yeah, let me just stop sharing my screen and stop sharing my screen. Okay, so everybody should know, Brother Reggie does not do the Bible verses. Brother Reggie does history. But I will look at what the Bible says, of course. But you're not. Don't expect me to be handling the book because I
I
don't.
mean, like I said, me, I ain't even gonna lie to you. I'm not fresh in the scriptures. I get to flipping through the book. I said the other day to somebody, Ephesians, and they were like, "You don't know what Ephesians is?" I'm like, "Look, man, I don't get to talk to people and flip through my book that much. You shouldn't expect
Okay,
me to
Isaiah
go
56.
offhand. I'm rusty.
Okay.
This is
Um.
what happens when people cut you out
Right.
of conversations.
Well, no, they don't. Well, one thing is that you have a temper. You curse everybody out. Um.
Well,
And
that's the old me. I repented from all of that. That's not me anymore. I don't even
so
argue, fight.
and okay. Okay. So I was at Emmanuel. But the point that I'm trying to say is when they're talking about, when they're in Isaiah and they're talking about uh, Emmanuel, right? They're actually talking about a real child that was born, right? And they're trying to talk about not a real child that was born, but a real child in the Bible that was born. And uh, Christians use that to kind of bring that into the as some type of prophecy for Jesus, and that's what Christians do. But in the Hebrews, the Jewish people, they don't accept they don't accept that this was for Jesus, and these are people of the Torah and Tanakh,
Well,
right?
the people that deals with Judaism today, or Judaism today, I would say are Edomites. They're not even Israelites. They're the replacement. Once again, these are people that hate the truth in reality, because if they told the truth in reality, then you'll have to deal with the truth in reality. So Judaism is a bastard religion, just like Roman Catholicism is a bastard religion. They killed the first Christians, the ones they call Christians, which were the followers of Christ from the Bible. So if you
Oh,
kill them and you search them and take their position and rewrite history, and because that's what you go by, then it's like,
but
well, this is what he say. Go ahead.
no, I'm gonna go and find this Emmanuel stuff in a second. I'm gonna find out exactly where it is. But here's the problem: those Hebrews or Jews that you call that are in the Sanhedrin, right? That uh, basically bring Jesus to court with the Roman court. Um, we did a show on that. It was really interesting. That they have a rationale to do it. They claim that
Talking about
Jesus broke the Sabbath.
at the
Huh? Can you hear me?
Josephus, all these people, they're not true Israelites. I can hear you a little bit, but the computer was breaking up. But go ahead.
Well, that's in the that's in the New Testament. So in the King James version or any of those versions, the people, the Pharisees, uh, they bring they don't like this Jesus guy, and they bring him to trial. They tell the Romans to bring him to trial, and Pontius Pilate asks him a bunch of questions about, are you this king, or you uh, um, and uh, and ultimately Jesus is crucified. The that's your suffering servant. Uh, but but to me there is some problems. We don't have any Roman records of this, and then we don't have outside of Jesus's death in history, we don't have any records of what his followers did, so-called followers, if he had followers, what they did after. We have the Bible saying speaking, but we don't have any evidence of this Jewish cult, this messianic Jewish cult of Jesus followers. We don't have any evidence. We can only look at the Bible for it, and for the people that look at the Bible, and if that's their faith, and I that's all of your faith, and I can respect your faith. I just can't respect it as true. I just can't respect it as true. So I'm gonna find this Emmanuel Hocus Pocus, right? So can you give me any evidence of Jesus followers outside of the Bible? Can you give me any evidence of Paul on the road to Damascus, which is now we're dealing with him being outside of the borders and actually going to Damascus as Saul to hunt down Christians, and he has his revelation, and then from a killer, or he becomes Paul, who becomes Jesus' servant. That's nice, but we don't have any evidence of that. And then Paul doesn't talk to the Hebrews or the neither does he talk to the Hebrews, nor does he talk to the Jesus followers, except for James or Peter that seems to meet him in Antioch. Um, why would James and Peter go to Antioch, or right, to meet Paul, right? And but we have kind of like that story, and uh, he meets the brother of Christ, which is James, and then but Paul becomes this kind of like a missionary who builds the church. That's where the first church was supposed to be built at. Um, in history, I read it. I'm writing a article with Morpheus on Christ before the Judea Jesus Christ, and in history we find that they didn't need a Jesus there in Antioch, Syria, or Asia Minor, as they call it, because a lot of the mystery systems were already there. So the Bible kind of makes it like these people are like devoid of any history. But in fact, these people are some of the oldest people in cultures and civilizations. They had great civilizations way prior to Christianity. So the areas were already filled with information, people with information. And we also have Greeks there, right? Paul doesn't talk to Hebrews, nor does he really talk to, except for those mentioned, Jesus' followers. He talks to the Gentiles or the Greeks. Uh, and so I have problems with that, Israel. But that doesn't mean, listen, my parents were Christian, my grandparents were Christian, my great grandparents were Christians, my great grandparents was Christian. I was born in Virginia in a Christian society. Um, I have I have respect for the culture. I don't have respect for these YouTube teachers. I don't. You still there? I Israel, who's doing the show, popped out. So I'll wait for him. Um, so uh, the story that I'm talking that we are talking the story that we were talking about is it's not Isaiah 56. It's let me see. It's Isaiah 7:14 and 8:8, 8 and 10. And when they're talking about Emmanuel for a second, for Emmanuel in the Bible is a real person, and it means it's God, God with us. Uh, uh, well, not God with us. El is with us. Emmanuel is El with us, not really God with us, and that's a real person, and he's a child, right? And Christians want to make that child uh, Jesus, right? Um, and then it says in Isaiah 7:14, the prophet speaks of a child called Emmanuel as a sign to the house of David. But the problem is that Jesus himself, uh, his father is God. His adopted father is who's Jesus' adopted father? Uh, what?
Joseph.
Joseph. Well, his adopted legal father is Joseph, but Joseph is not Joseph. Joseph. Uh, the problem is Joseph in the line of David seems to be a little problematic because there's this curse of Jeconiah, as I kind of remember, and
Yes, the
and
bloodline of David got tainted, so they could no longer sit on the throne.
so Jesus could never sit on the throne. Jesus could never be a king
Never
if
came.
he's connected to Joseph.
He never. He spiritually is the son of David. Remember, the
Spiritually,
Holy Spirit got married.
spiritually, he's the son of. He's the son. Sorry, spiritually he's the son of God.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I'm talking some technical stuff. But the whole thing is, if he's born of the Holy Spirit and not of a man's seed, Joseph's seed, then he got another nature that's not of man.
okay, that's fine in belief. I don't, that's fine in belief. I don't have a. We can agree or disagree, and that's why me and you we always agree to disagree without Israel doctrine curses everybody out. He don't curse me out. So that's why.
That's the old Israel doctrine because I don't get along with a certain type of person.
Well, I don't know why this happened.
Always about attitude and positioning and stuff. Always respect your mind And I respect the fact that, like you say, well, I don't deal with it, but I respect it. Most people
Right.
don't have that stance on stuff.
Well, that's why I respect you as a man, and I respect you as a brother, and I just agree to disagree. I just say that we are on two different paths. My path is more history, looking at cultures, and your path is real doctrine, keeping the laws, statutes, of commandments, and I can respect that. And you go you take the bat to head, the belt to ass with Black Hebrews and other preterists and all these other groups. You take bat to head and uh,
Well,
um,
I wanted to have a conversation because, like you said, we ain't probably talked to 10 years and stuff. We ain't been on this.
online.
Woo!
We haven't talked in a long time online. And every now and then we just check up on our health and things going on in our lives and stuff like that.
Well,
Personally,
we've been here an hour, and it seemed like people appreciate the fact that we talking. They don't probably know what we talking about. They just like, oh, that's Reggie, and that's Israel Doctrine call, and they trying to figure out what we talking about. But I would like to say, the next time you on, invite me.
yeah. If I'm on a show, uh, Black News 102, and I open up the chat, we can always talk. You can, but I guarantee you, if you come on, you won't be arguing with me per se. You'll be doing back to head to uh, people that call themselves the Comforter or the Holy Spirit. You'll be talking. You'll be disagreeing with people like Yara. I just can't believe that you uh, uh, ride with Apostle.
Well,
Uh,
like I said,
can't believe that.
I
Yeah.
loved his position because, like he said, it's a spiritual aspect to it that the carnal mind cannot even fathom. So when you go into the argument a certain way, it's gonna come out a certain way. And
Why don't they follow what the tenets say? Love thy neighbor, right? Don't abhor the Egyptians. Why are they so freaking evil?
they've been taught that
Yeah,
by evil people.
they angry Christians. They evil. They don't want to deal with if you put real facts in front of them, or at least historical facts. They don't have to be true, right? Like if you give me a quote in the Bible, it's a fact that it's in the Bible. It doesn't have to be true. But they don't accept anything except for their BS. And they're not going far because they never write a scholarly paper.
You
Uh,
ever been in the military?
no.
You know what they do to people in the military? They indoctrinate them with
Right.
military rules, laws, statutes, and commandments. And these people go to these Hebrew Israelite camps, they get indoctrinated like they do in the military. If you don't do it right, you might have to drop in EM50. So it ain't that you just did something wrong. You got to pay for what you did. You got to physically pay for what you did and stuff. This does something to the psyche of mankind.
Okay, so that's what we're dealing with. That's why you use back to head and belt to ass to those people.
I'd rather
Um,
be feared than loved.
of course. Of course. But I largely deal with them. And so you have we've been talking about an hour. My worldview or where I am now is that I need to see at least facts, right? So I can once we have facts, then we can look at the plausibility of those facts
I know
to,
my job now. That's
to
how I
see.
told you. I got to deal with the regular Christian. Then I got to graduate to the more historical person, non-Christian.
Right. And I'm always going to treat you well. Um, and I've been with you in a long time. I've seen the fights that you've had with people trying to set you up, put you in prison, charge you with defamation, have you get arrested, right? And then when we look at those people, those people themselves are unclean people associating, uh, uh, in fanatic cults, and then associating with the government, um, and then at the same time, uh, uh, how can I say, having arguments with you, um, when the issue should either be textual criticism of the Bible rather than their uh,
Personal stance.
personal stance. And then, look, defamation. Nobody should be in a situation where they are talking about people's health, per se. Um,
Parents. My
and,
parents ain't got nothing to do with this. They dead and gone.
yeah. But I have to review. It's been a long time. I don't know what your how that beef started that had you win your court case. You represented yourself in court. You came out free. It was a setup. You actually came up free, uh, um, and it was dismissed, and it was a setup. And I forgot how that started. We can talk offline on how that started, but I didn't like that. I didn't like that.
Well, it started because of YouTube. I've always been the YouTube monster. And so they put up a post on Facebook and said, I love or protect pedophiles.
Oh,
And once they did that, it was like, no, 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 no. It's on now. And so I started attacking. And then the lie went out like, hey, he's stalking me. And it started.
yeah. Well, they should know that you come from Chicago, and uh, how can I say, and then live in Arkansas, or right? Or where else you live, and you was a gunslinger. So they don't know that about you. They think that you were. They don't know that type of
They lied on me and then expected me to be quiet, and I ain't to be quiet type.
right. So, in short, maybe at another time we can talk again. But my stance is history, facts that are you can reasonably assert that have some plausibility. Um, I don't believe in the Bible. I don't believe per se in ancient Egyptian religion. I don't. But I can respect what.
If you're not religious, what if it be Bible or Egyptian or whatever, you're not religious. That's something I learned
Oh,
too.
you're religious because you practice rituals. You do things that are routine. You follow commandments. That's what makes it a religion when you have set practices, right? You have set practices. Some of the people in those books, they are not religious. Like your Christ, your Jesus is not religious. He is spiritual. But the practitioners who practice after him, they are religious.
Well, I give you my word, unless you get the word that I can't come over, I'll see you in the future.
Okay, so Israel Doctrine, it was a pleasure talking to you. We didn't have to go blow by blow. You got a chance of understanding where I come from and where I have problems with text. Um, I'm sorry I was a little slow on Isaiah and Emmanuel. I could have just looked it up, but you said Isaiah 56, and that seems to be dealing with salvation.
Yeah, it might be Isaiah 53 or what. It's the suffering servant. Because Christ is the servant and he had to suffer.
Right, but
You cut that out of the conversation as if he didn't come and suffer first before he go and do the second half and build a temple and do all the other things that the Messiah is said to do.
he didn't build the temple.
I know. That's why I
The
said
te-
he did the first part, then he got to come and do the second part,
right.
which is the grand finale. He coming back for the grand finale. He ain't did the grand finale yet.
Well, he has to come back because he can't be the Messiah because he didn't do any of the things that the Messiah says that you should do.
Of,
Right?
of
He
yeah,
can come back and he gonna come back.
he haven't did them yet because he died before he could do them. He died
Yeah.
in half of his ministry. He still got another half to carry out.
What? Well, yeah. Well, he's gotta do it in the future. But the problem is he's got to come back because he ain't do what a Messiah. He doesn't do what a Messiah is supposed to do. So he has to come back whenever that happens. But until that part, you can have your faith and you can believe, and but if you want to make a mistake and not you, but make a mistake and argue, you better bring some facts to the table. I don't believe that uh, Jesus and has anything to do with Isaiah from a textual criticism, right? Because Emmanuel was a real child, so Jesus has to be then a reincarnation of Emmanuel.
Well, we're gonna cut this off and continue with, like I said, I'm gonna see you when you do your show. If I can come over, because you might receive word. Don't let that boy over here on this channel.
I don't think so. Well, we'll take it as it goes because see the only well, I don't care because you won't be arguing with me. You're gonna be arguing with the same people I argue with, the numbnuts, right? You're gonna be arguing with them. You won't be arguing with me. Like as soon as apostle comes on, a man walking around calling himself apostle, they got the craziest names. There's Easy Bands, there's Revelation X, there is they got the craziest names. They don't their names don't speak to a doctrine, right? But they seem to be doing missionary work, and they're so
Well, this is YouTube. This is an entertainment company, and they're entertainers. They come on
um,
to entertain. They don't come on here to do the mission of God. If they were servants of God, they would
yeah.
do
Well, okay.
God.
So that's why I don't how can I say you've always been a friend of mine. We're not going to talk about all of the stuff, but uh, you've always been a stand-up fella, and you was the first person when all of the people was going against me, against SETI, when I was talking about SETI, and when I was talking about when they try to out me with the Kim on trial with the Hebrews, and a lot of Hebrews were on my neck. You always said, Reggie, if you need to, come on my show, right? And you
Yeah,
did it. You did your first show
I'm
with
a
me.
very honest person. A lot of people don't understand that. I have morals and principles. Certain things I got to stand on, irregardless. But just like the honor your mother and father, but if so and did fight with your mother, it's certain things I'm gonna stand on. I tell people my mama was lying, and I told her, "Mama, you lying." She smacked the woo. The only person that can put your hand in my face and I let it go. Unless you got a gun, it ain't gonna get let go. And
Yeah,
then
right,
I'm gonna carry it to the grave.
right.
Well,
So
we've been here long enough, Reggie. I want to say peace. See you when I
I
can.
hope this worked out for you, Israel. I hope you got at least a conversation from me.
Yeah, like I told you, once I get through with this one thing, I'm gonna get on this. I'm
Okay, so I'll be looking
first.
forward to you.
I'm gonna
So
start
shout out to the audience, and that there you go. Show ended.
peace and
Brother
love.
Reggie, Israel Doctrine Talks.
Peace and love, bro.